Jamaica King.
Campari, red passion. 3 bills that are for your drink and 18 bills for the floss. Aye, they are the bar, just get a text. Buy for your link up, she want make a flex. Buy a Campari, you know what's next. Ashley a call up, wifey don't vex. Head to your nearest community bar and get your Campari for the recommended drink price of $300 for a drink and $1,800 for the flask. Campari, red passion. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
Win with KFC, big league, join the league. Big league. Win a trip to Brazil, all you mean? Yeah. Big deal, meal deal, big match. Just buy KFC and win that. From now until July 20th, 2026, buy a big deal or meal deal for a chance to win a trip for 2 to Brazil. Courtesy of KFC, that's $500,000 cash from Best Dressed Chicken. 11 weekly winners score free KFC for a year. 65-inch TVs, smartphones, and more. Just WhatsApp your receipt to 876-784-7811 to enter and win big in the KFC Big League. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries.
Good afternoon, well actually good evening, listeners and viewers. It is time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell. Thank you for joining us. We interrupt your World Cup programming. I hope you've been enjoying it. Remember that the 2026 World Cup is on the way and Nationwide is bringing exclusive radio coverage of the matches. We'll also be having post-game analysis for the knockout round. Don't forget to tune in. Please also note our new YouTube channel, that's NNR Radio Live. So go over to that new channel, like, share, and subscribe. I hope our loyal listeners have been enjoying the World Cup matches so far. Quite the performance there by France against Sweden. Quite the performance there specifically by Mbappe. But we have some matters to discuss, listeners, and that is the Jamaican economy, which has contracted for a second consecutive quarter, with total value added falling 4.1% in the first quarter of 2026 when compared with the same period last year. That's according to a release from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, this afternoon. But despite the contraction, there are signs of recovery in the economy. More in this report from Mahiri Stewart.
The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, says the downturn was driven in large part by the lingering effects of Hurricane Melissa, which continued to weigh on agriculture, tourism, and related activities through the January to March period. The goods-producing industries fell 7.3%, while the services industries declined 3%. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing recorded the steepest fall among the goods producers, dropping 18.3%. Statin reports that banana production plunged 86% and plantain production fell 83.7%, while the growing of yams and other root crops declined 25.5%. A 2.4% increase in the growing of vegetables and condiments tempered the wider contraction. Mining and quarrying fell 23.5% on the back of lower alumina and bauxite output. Alumina production dropped 30.3% to 267,000 tons, while crude bauxite production declined 26.4%. Manufacturing was the only goods-producing industry to record growth, edging up to 0.6%. Statin credits increased cement production supported by strong domestic demand linked to ongoing recovery from Hurricane Melissa. In the services sector, all industries declined except financial and insurance activities, which grew 2.9% on stronger commercial banking activity. Accommodation and food service activities were among the hardest hit, contracting 16.6% as hotel closures and a 28.7% drop in foreign national arrivals took their toll. Foreign arrivals fell to 493,000, down from 692,000 a year earlier. Other notable declines were recorded in electricity, water supply and waste management, down 10.2%, transport and storage down 5.5%, and information and communication down 4%. However, despite the year-on-year contraction, there are early signs of recovery. When compared with the previous quarter, the seasonally adjusted economy grew 3.3%, with the goods-producing and services industries posting gains of 5.8% and 2.5% respectively. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Thank you there, Mahiri. And in the meantime, the country's unemployment rate has climbed as the labor market continues to feel the effects of Hurricane Melissa. New figures from Staten show the rate rose to 3.7% in April. That's up from 3.3% a year earlier. Well, joining us to discuss further is development economist and chairman of the NCS Enterprises, Dr. Christian Stokes, and managing director for Strategic Alignment Limited, Robert Winter. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening. Thanks for having us.
Good evening to you both. So, starting with you, Dr. Stokes, the economy is showing some green shoots, but still kind of flailing as a result of Hurricane Melissa, correct?
Yes, it seems so. Down 7.1%. I think it was revised to 7.3 for the December quarter, 4.1 for the March quarter. So the size of the decline is reducing, which means that there's some recovery. It is not as fast as I would have liked to have seen it. There are a couple of things that concern me. First would be the tourism the arrivals, the stayover visitors. That concerns me. The slowness in recovery, not so much from longer term crops, but certainly the short term crops. Grown primarily in St. Elizabeth, that is of some concern. And the bigger concern is that the current war in Iraq did not start until the end of February, so that is not fully recorded in that. The price hikes related to that are not fully recorded in the first quarter. So I think there may be some additional lag going there. So I'm concerned that there's some real underlying weakness in the economy that we have to see how it unfolds.
And Robert Winter, particularly on that point of still the concerns about that U.S.-Iran issue, do you see that not playing out yet and we should expect probably choppier waters going forward still?
Yeah, there will be some negative impact of the war on the oil prices. However, I think Chris made a very important point. There are some underlying weaknesses in the economy which have been there for well over a decade. You may realize that the quarter before Hurricane Beryl, the economy grew at less than 0.5%.
Yes.
And we've had a growth of average 1% over the last 10 years. I have not seen any attempt to really address these weaknesses. And I think we are hoping that there will be a recovery, and we are hoping that all the money flowing is going to magically help the economy to grow. And I am concerned that it's not going to happen unless we fix the serious issues. The Prime Minister speaks about the productivity, which will not be fixed easily. I think there's some difficult decisions need to be taken within the public sector, I know, but somehow we haven't made those decisions and made those changes as yet. And we have no real growth plan for quite some time, and we'll be just running on regular fuel and nothing to really recover sharply. That's my challenge.
And we speak about this underlying weakness in the economy, and we always point to the matter of productivity, and then we single out the public sector almost to a fault. Is the underlying weakness solely on the basis of the performance of the public sector, or is there more to it? I put that to you, Dr. Christian Stokes.
No, it's absolutely not solely on the basis of the public sector. The issue is that we there's a focus on low value production. And as long as you have that, then you're not far enough up the value chain to create the sort of wealth and pay people the sort of salaries that you need. It's not that employers are being stingy, but the consumption ability in the economy is low because people are paid low, because people aren't working in jobs that generate. In businesses that generate high-value products and services. So, it's 10 years, some would say 20, 30, 40 years, we're in this sort of, minus, yes. It won't be, it's very difficult. Very few countries have come out of this sort of, middle income trap. But we have to, I believe it, let's take, for example, productivity. What does that mean? Education, skills build up, but also the business that you work in has to be charging the kind of prices and delivering the kind of value that would add to the market, to consumers who can consume the products and deliver revenues to the companies to pay people better, to get very granular. And that we're just stuck in this sort of humdrum, low level, my doctor says that, sort of ongoing low level fever that is not bad, but you just started going along, blah, blah, and that's where we are. And, we can have a conversation about, initiatives, but that is the crux of the matter. We're just a low value added economy. We're creating jobs where people are working in call centers, where they're working 2 and 3 jobs. The guy who is the plumber in Kingston, Jamaica, taking the bus is the same plumber in Cayman with a house and a car. So the structure of the economy is just not supportive.
And Robert Winter, you spoke to it earlier, and the fact essentially that the Prime Minister has suggested that we use this opportunity of the Hurricane Melissa and the funding that has come as a result to take Jamaica out of that rut, so to speak. But you say that you don't quite see it. Why is that?
It's not we don't have a resource problem, And I mean, even Dr. Tufton said that the other day. He said the problems in the health center is not a lack of resources, a lack of management. And there's a fundamental thing. So when you have a problem, you can either throw money at it or you throw strategy and leadership at it. And I think we have been believing that we can throw money at the problems. And I want to make the point about the public sector versus the private sector. If a private sector company, as Dr. Stokes was saying, is producing low value goods and is not earning any money, as a matter of fact, it's losing money, it has to close down. When a public sector organization is performing, the taxpayers continue to fund it.
Yes.
And that's where, we looked at the budget, which was somehow, I think, 1.3 billion last year, and I was speaking to some persons in the public sector about how much value are we getting for our taxpayer money, and they're suggesting about 40%. So we are converting pretty much $1.3 trillion of taxpayer money into only 40% of value, and that's where the problem is with the productivity. I'm saying we are not converting our resources into results adequately from a very high level.
And we've talked. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
And there are some tough decisions that need to be made. We have gone ahead and increased. The Prime Minister said a couple of years ago that the compensation system had 2 phases. One was to pay more money, and 2 was about performance and accountability. We have a very failing performance and accountability system, very dysfunctional system in the public sector. And I know the Prime Minister wants to fix it, but I don't think he has the wherewithal to fix it, and he's not getting any help to fix it.
And that is interesting because we've talked this problem to death, I believe, and it seems the solution is almost there upon us. But you say that he doesn't have the wherewithal, but do you actually mean that he does not have the political capacity to fix it?
No, the people around him who should be helping him are not helping him. He would like to do it, but he's a prime minister that does a whole lot of things. There are organizations in the sector that should be better than that, and I usually look at 3. The Ministry of Finance in the public sector is not really tracking how well the budget is being used throughout the public sector, right? The planning to Jamaica is not really planning properly. They're more into reporting and projecting. And we have the Cabinet Office, which have things like the performance management systems and the corporate planning and so forth. And they're all dysfunctional. And they're the ones who are supposed to be addressing this, and they're not addressing it. The Prime Minister has these good ideas, but even he's come out with Aspire. But those persons who are supposed to put legs to Aspire have failed him.
And I want to put it to you, Dr. Christian Sos, but we still have to move on to the labor aspect of this. But before we move on to that, I think Mr. Winters raised a valid point in terms of getting a lot of this across the finish line. Do you suspect that the NARA as put forward by the Prime Minister under this Hurricane Melissa response is a way to essentially bypass what has been recognized as severe roadblocks in the public sector?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I'll give the Prime Minister the benefit of the doubt for that. It's untidy. But I believe that he sees, he wants to go down in history as the great constructor, as a not conceptualized great constructor in Jamaican political history. He sees the clock ticking. This is an opportunity. But if he goes through the regular channels, he doesn't see it happening. And that's because he has tried and failed and been frustrated. I would want to put something to Mr. Winter, though. That whenever, and it's something I've seen, and whenever you see these so-called inefficiencies,
Right.
it is efficient for somebody.
That's
Somebody
true.
is benefiting from the system as
Absolutely.
it exists,
Absolutely.
right? And therefore the question is, how do you align that benefit to the national interest? And these bodies,
And
these
that's
bodies
the
have a
result.
life of their own. I don't care who is the Prime Minister,
No,
believe me.
But the thing is, the Prime Minister needs to take some tough action against those who are supposed to perform better. And I said, narrow is going to be like a band-aid over a sore. You have a sore foot, and you put a band-aid over it, the pus will still come out.
Yeah.
So what will happen unless you fix the rest of the public sector? Narrow alone is going to run into problems.
But Robert Winter, I really have to challenge you on this. Sorry, but I have
the moment they have to interact with those other bodies, is going to run into
Absolutely,
the
that's right. You know, one apple is going to spoil the whole bunch, you know.
but I have to challenge you on that,
Go
Robert
ahead,
Winter.
Go ahead, challenge me on that.
Because we keep talking about what the Prime Minister can do versus what is in the public sector and how the public sector is going to interpret or carry out his orders, so to speak. But isn't the crux of the problem at this point, as I said, it's a political one, is it not? Because if the Prime Minister makes certain moves against the public sector or attempts to reform it, is he not going to get pushed back?
No. First of all, elections was only recently, so he has 4 years upon the elections to fix the problem, if he wants to. Secondly, we were very, very successful in debt reduction, you know. There was no political pushback. They were using political excuses for poor growth. But coming out of this IMF agreement in 2013, there were 2 areas to be covered. One was debt reduction, and the other was growth. So there was a clear plan for debt reduction. There was no plan for growth. There was a clear execution of the debt reduction, not for growth.
You have to patch the holes before you pour water into the bucket.
Execution succeeded, but growth didn't. Why think there's a difference? And it's the same political environment.
But my argument there, Robert Winter, is that we seem to be able to rise to the occasion when there is an existential crisis. But once we have passed that existential crisis, we seem to fall back into the rut, as you would put it.
Oh, we had an existential crisis. Dr. Phillips said before the 2013 IMF agreement. We have had growth averaging 1% for 40 years, and this cannot go on. And the last 10 years, not last 13 years across both administrations, we have averaged 1%.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not about one side or the other. Both have failed. But we were successful because we took our approach where we planned carefully, we executed carefully, we monitored carefully. But only one side of the equation was successful. And we're now blaming political problems on the other side. That can't be so.
Fair enough. As I said, we have to touch on the matter of labor because that also has declined, gentlemen, from, unemployment has increased, I should say, that it has increased from 3.3% to 3.7%. Still very commendable numbers under the circumstances. But one of the things that stood out to me was the employed labor force, particularly among women, almost double the rate in terms of those unemployed versus men at 8,500 for men, 17,000 women less employed in the labor force. What accounts for that discrepancy? Sorry, let me put that to you, Dr. Stokes.
That's a good question. And my initial response would be that the type of work that women are doing is being measured, and the type of work that men are. This is very general. That men are doing is not being measured, and then you have to speculate as to what kind of work that is. The labor participation is high in terms of international comparison. I think it's 60-something%.
Yes.
I never want to cap about the 3.3 and 3.5, which is certainly better than 10, but even at 3.3, 3.5, 3.7, which it's a low number, you still have the fact that the persons are working and are spending their pay to take the bus to work. That's what is happening in the country, right?
No savings.
Yes, right. So I'm not clapping, you see, and I would, I understand that you have to go to Parliament and bang on the table and say unemployment is 3.3%, but this is no way to grow an economy, and that is not success, right? And if it's at 3.3, 3.7 unemployment with persons make it with a per capita of 40, 50, 60,000, fine. But not with a per capita of 5,000 and 6,000, and people really not being able to earn a livable wage. So we still have a lot of work to do, and we have really not, as Jamaicans, have achieved at everything we have laid our hands at. It is perplexing to me why administration after administration, decade after decade, we can't put our shoulders to the wheel and take on this problem of growth. Growth ministries and so on notwithstanding. I believe that the entrepreneurial spirit of the Jamaican people needs to be unleashed. Bureaucracy needs to get out of the way. Financing needs to be provided. And I think that is the key part of generating growth.
And you bring that up, because I know at some point in time I can't say I was politically conscious or economically conscious at the time, but I know there was a time in Jamaican history when we had quite a few startups and very, very specialized businesses, services, and etc. And they seem to have just died out over time. And that spirit, as you put it, that entrepreneurial spirit does not seem to be returning.
Let me just say. I talk to an entrepreneur in America, and he'll tell me, boy, he's doing well. This is his fourth business, but the other three failed. Right? In Jamaica, if one fails, that is it.
No.
No, right? You have no... There's almost punishment that the bank come for your house, nobody won't lend you money again, and then you wither away. We need to have a structure where the natural entrepreneur... Listen, right after slavery, right, 20% of the currency in Jamaica was already in the hands of the ex-slaves. Right? People are natural entrepreneurs, and we have found a way to stifle that, and we need to unleash it.
And Robert Winter, how do we fix that problem? Because I think one of the strong fundamental issues here is that Jamaicans have grown quite risk-averse as a result of past history in terms of the economic potential of the country.
Risk-averse is the idea that you're to make as much money as you can with as little risk as possible. So nothing's really wrong with being risk averse if you can make a lot of money. But if the environment now is the problem now that as Chris says is enable risk averseness, so that you don't want to try something fails. You don't want to go into something new. You shy away from agriculture unless it's a subsidy from the state. Putting a lot of resources from taxpayers' money into bureaucracy that is not only too big and costs too much, but it's also a stumbling block to the growth. And so I think the starting point for us is to fix our bureaucracy. And if you will recall, in that 2013 IMF agreement, one of the number one things was public sector transformation. It has not happened. As a matter of fact, it has been reversed. It has gotten worse. It has really, really gotten worse. the procurement system is very difficult. Nobody wants to do anything, but nobody wants to take a chance again. I've seen some person said, someone said this morning, I would like to go and help in exports, but if I go and help in exports, then the commission would kill me because I would take chances and take risks and get things going. But we have an environment, a commercial environment that does not support it. And remember now, we have also shifted. You spoke about the 60s when in the share administration, there are a lot of startups, a lot of things were opening, Lightburn is opening a lot of things, but we have shifted from manufacturing to services. So when persons cry about the manufacturing or the merchandise trade balance, we are a service organization, or almost, I would say, 70-30, 75-25 service to goods.
And it would be interesting to point out that according to the latest Staten survey in terms of GDP, the manufacturing sector is the one of only two that grew following Hurricane Melissa. But gentlemen, thank you for...
Think about it, manufacturing mostly in the east, and agriculture and tourism, agriculture balance and tourism in the west that got hit. So you would figure that a lot more manufacturing do better because it escaped the Melissa. And that's probably why.
Well said. That is Managing Director of Strategic Alignment Limited, Robert Winter, and we also had with us Development Economist and Chairman of NCS Enterprises, Dr. Christian Stokes. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, listeners and viewers, for joining us for this brief Nationwide at 5 segment. Thank you in the YouTube comments, Unetta Reed, Carrick, Valerie Green, Errol Townsend, Cindy Lynch, and all the other YouTubers. Thank you for joining us again. We have to step off here. Next is the comment section with Shalois Michael and Mahiri Stewart. I'm Siobhan Campbell, and I've been your host. Have a good evening.
In today's economy, smart investments matter more than